What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors collides headfirst with daytime TV's most controversial host? You're about to witness a fiery exchange that went from awkward to explosive in seconds flat, leaving everyone in that studio stunned into silence. Before we dive into this chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think really set this meltdown in motion. Because trust me, it's one for the books. The tension was thick from the second Nicolas Cage walked onto the View set. He was there to promote his latest passion project, a deeply personal independent film he'd spent years trying to bring to life. Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah-Griffin seemed genuinely curious to hear about his creative journey. But Joy Behar, she clearly had other plans. With that trademark smirk and a tone that screamed trouble, she started. So, Nicolas, let's talk about your spending habits. I mean, the dinosaur skulls, the private island, the pyramid tomb. Don't you think it'd be irresponsible to burn through millions like that? The crowd went dead quiet. That question wasn't in the pre-interview notes, and everyone knew it. Nicolas shifted in his chair, his jaw tightening. Well, Joy, I think we're here to discuss my film, not my financial history, he said evenly. But Joy wasn't backing down. Oh, but it's all connected, isn't it? How can audiences trust an actor who can't even manage his own money? You had to sell your cars, your comic books, even your homes. That's not exactly the mark of someone who makes smart decisions. Even Whoopi winced. The air in the room was thick with discomfort. But Joy leaned in closer, her tone turning even sharper. And what about all those straight-to-video movies? People are calling it the Nicolas Cage money grab. Are you just taking anything that pays the bills now? Nicolas's eyes hardened, his hands clasping tightly on his lap. His voice was calm but carried a steel edge. With all due respect, Joy, you're making judgments without context. Every role I take, whether it's a blockbuster or an indie passion project, is a conscious artistic choice. Artistic choice. Joy laughed harshly, her voice dripping with mockery. Come on, Nicolas. You made National Treasure, then Season of the Witch. That's not art. That's desperation. Saya tried to jump in, suggesting they pivot back to the new movie, but Joy wasn't having it. No, I think our viewers deserve honesty. Let's be real. Nicolas, you become a meme. People don't take you seriously anymore. They watch your movies to laugh at you, not with you. How does that feel? The camera caught the instant something in Cage's demeanor shifted. His eyes narrowed, his voice lowered, and suddenly, the entire room felt it. You know what, Joy? I've been doing this for over 40 years. I've worked with some of the greatest filmmakers alive. I've won an Academy Award. I've created characters people still quote decades later. But more importantly, I've never stopped taking risks. I've never played it safe or lived by someone else's definition of success. Joy rolled her eyes dramatically, clearly trying to push him further. Oh, don't give me the tortured artist speech. You bought a pyramid for your grave. That's not creative. It's crazy. Cage leaned forward now, his composure cracking just enough to show the fire beneath. At least I'm not building a career on tearing people down for entertainment. At least when I take risks, it's in the name of art, not cheap shots or ratings. The studio was dead silent. Whoopi looked ready to throw to commercial, but Joy wasn't done. Cheap shots, she snapped. I'm asking the real questions, the ones everyone else is too afraid to ask. You should be thanking me for being honest. Cage gave a slow, knowing smile that didn't reach his eyes. Honest? Is that what we're calling this? Relevant. You sit there day after day, Joy, taking cheap shots at people who actually put themselves on the line, people who create, who take risks, who fail, and get back up again. You think mocking others makes you powerful, but all it does is reveal how small you become. The studio was dead silent. You could hear the faint hum of the lights overhead, the rustle of cue card forgotten in the hands of a stunned production assistant. Joy blinked, visibly thrown off by the sudden force of Nicolas's words, but she tried to recover, plastering on that trademark smirk that had carried her through countless on-air clashes. Small? Please. I ask tough questions, Nicolas. It's called journalism. Nicolas took a step closer, his voice lower now, calmer, but that calm was somehow even more unnerving. No, Joy, it's called provocation. You don't ask questions to find truth. You ask them to create conflict. You don't care about understanding. You care about sound bites. The tension was suffocating. Whoopi looked like she was silently praying for a commercial break, but nobody dared move. Joy forced a laugh, but it came out thin and shaky. "Oh, come on. You can't seriously be that sensitive. It's just an interview." Nicolas tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "No, Joy. It's not just an interview when you use your platform to humiliate people. You call it honesty, but what you're really doing is feeding the same outrage machine you claim to despise." The studio audience, which had been eerily quiet, began to murmur. Even the control room could be seen through the glass window, staff frozen, watching every second unfold like a car crash in slow motion. Joy leaned forward, grasping at her last thread of control. "You think you can come on my show, lecture me, and make me look bad? You've been a punchline for years, Nicolas. I'm just saying what everyone already thinks." Nicolas let out a sharp laugh that wasn't amused at all. "You know what's funny, Joy? You accuse me of being a caricature, but you become one yourself, a parody of what you used to be. Once upon a time, you had something to say. Now, all you do is provoke outrage and call it courage." Joy's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her face was flushed, her eyes darting toward the producers for backup that wasn't coming. The audience could feel the shift, the moment when the power dynamic completely flipped. Nicolas Cage, the man she'd tried to ridicule, was now commanding the room with quiet authority. "You say I make weird choices," he continued, his tone softening but still cutting. "You're right. I do, because life is weird. Art is weird. Humanity is weird. But at least I'm out there trying to find meaning in the madness. You, on the other hand, sit here and mock what you don't understand. That's not bravery, Joy. That's fear disguised as wit." For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Whoopi finally jumped in, her voice shaky but determined. "Okay, we're gonna go to break," she said, glancing toward the control booth. But Nicolas wasn't finished. He turned to the audience, his voice calm, almost reflective now. "I came here today to talk about a film about redemption, about learning from your mistakes, about empathy. And instead, I got this, proof that empathy is exactly what's missing from conversations like these." He looked back at Joy, who sat frozen, hands clenched around her cue cards. "I hope someday you find a story worth believing in again." Then, with quiet composure, he unhooked his MIC, placed it neatly on the table, and walked off the set. The audience didn't clap. They didn't boo. They just watched him go, stunned, silent, knowing they had just witnessed a moment that would be replayed, dissected, and remembered for years. Above accountability, Nicolas. That's what separates me from everyone else who comes through this studio. I don't worship fame. I expose it. Nicolas Cage tilted his head slightly, a calm but cutting smile forming on his face as he replied, "Expose it? No, Joy. You don't expose anything. You exploit it. You take people's pain, their struggles, their humanity, and twist them into punchlines for a few cheap laughs and a spike in ratings. That's not bravery, Joy. That's cruelty disguised as journalism." The crowd had fallen into a suffocating silence. Even the ever-talkative audience members sat frozen, sensing they were witnessing something rare and raw, something real. Joy let out a nervous chuckle, trying to reclaim her power. "Oh, please," she said dismissively, waving a hand. "Spare me the lecture. You actors love to play the victim whenever someone dares to question your choices." Nicolas leaned forward slowly, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers with laser focus. "There's a difference between questioning and humiliating, Joy. You don't ask to understand. You ask to wound. You don't challenge ideas. You attack people. You dress it up as honesty, but it's just cruelty. And the worst part? You've done it for so long, you actually believe it's integrity." Joy opened her mouth to fire back, but her words caught somewhere between her throat and her pride. For the first time in a long time, she seemed rattled. Nicolas continued, his tone rising, firm but impassioned. "You think my career is luck? Try surviving 40 years in Hollywood, being mocked, written off, misunderstood, and still waking up every morning ready to give everything you've got to your craft. That's not luck. That's grit. That's devotion. That's love for storytelling, for art, for something bigger than yourself. His voice filled the studio, each word carrying weight, conviction, and decades of pent-up frustration. You can call me strange, eccentric, or even insane, but at least I feel something when I work. At least I have the courage to take risks, to fall on my face, to push boundaries and look foolish doing it. Because art isn't about playing it safe. It's about honesty, and that's something I don't think you understand anymore. Joy crossed her arms tightly, her face a mix of fury and discomfort. "Oh, I understand honesty just fine," she snapped. "I just don't sugarcoat it." "No," Nicolas said quietly, his voice slicing through the tension like glass. "You poison it. You use honesty as a weapon, not a mirror. You think being cool is being real, but it's not. It's cowardice wearing confidence as a disguise." The control room was in chaos, producers whispering frantically, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial. But no one dared. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't just television. It was truth unraveling live, unstoppable. Nicolas stood now, towering over the table, his voice calmer but more commanding than ever. "You say I've forgotten? That I'm a joke? Maybe. But I'd rather be forgotten for being authentic than remembered for being heartless. I'd rather take 1,000 creative risks and fail spectacularly than sit here every day pretending cynicism is wisdom." Joy's face went pale, the confidence fading from her eyes. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Nicolas stepped closer, lowering his tone until it was almost a whisper. "You think you built a career out of holding people accountable, but all you've really built is a wall, one that keeps you from seeing the good in others. You tear down artists, politicians, even your co-hosts, all because deep down, you're afraid of being irrelevant. You crave control because the truth is, you lost touch with empathy." Whoopi, who had been silent for most of the exchange, finally leaned forward. "Okay, let's all take a breath," she said softly, but Nicolas gently held up a hand, eyes still fixed on Joy. "No, Whoopi, I need to finish this." He took a deep breath, his voice steady but full of emotion. "You talk about accountability, but when was the last time you looked in the mirror and asked yourself what you become? You're not the voice of truth, Joy. You're the echo of outrage. You've traded curiosity for conflict, compassion for clicks." Joy tried to interject, her voice shaky now. "I'm not here to comfort egos, Nicolas. I'm here to tell it like it is." Nicolas nodded slowly, a sad smile crossing his face. "No, Joy, you tell it like it hurts. There's a difference." He unhooked his microphone, the soft click echoing in the quiet studio. "You think power comes from shouting the loudest, but real power comes from listening, from understanding, from caring." He turned toward the audience, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "And maybe that's why people still believe in me, because even when they laugh, even when they doubt me, they know I care." With that, Nicolas set the MIC on the table, straightened his jacket, and began walking off the set. The cameras followed him as he disappeared backstage, leaving behind a stunned silence. Joy Behar sat frozen, her usual fiery energy extinguished. Whoopi looked down, shaking her head slowly. Sarah Haynes exhaled the breath she'd been holding. And as the camera panned across the silent studio, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a viral TV moment. This was a reckoning. A public stripping down of ego, of cruelty, of everything daytime television had become. It was a moment authenticity stood up and walked out. Else, what unfolded that day wasn't just a tense interview. It was a full-blown collision between ego, authenticity, and the raw truth of a man who'd finally had enough. The studio lights seemed to burn hotter as Nicolas Cage delivered what would become one of the most unforgettable live television moments in recent memory. His words cut with precision, not from anger, but from conviction, every syllable aimed at exposing the toxic undercurrent of modern media culture. The audience sat frozen, caught between disbelief and awe, watching as one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors dismantled a seasoned talk show host in real time. "You're not asking questions," he'd said. "You're attacking." That line echoed through the studio, and even Joy Behar's trademark smirk faltered for a split second. This was no longer the playful sparring match she was used to. This was a reckoning. The entire room could feel it, the shift from entertainment to confrontation, from witty banter to brutal honesty. Joy, visibly rattled but too proud to back down, tried to spin the moment, insisting that she was giving the audience real talk. But Nicolas wasn't buying it. His calm composure only made his words sting sharper as he accused her of turning what was once a platform for meaningful discussion into a spectacle of cheap shots and personal attacks. "You create conflict for ratings," he said, and the silence that followed was deafening. The other host sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let the storm play out. When Nicolas turned his focus directly to the camera, the energy in the room changed completely. The tension turned to something raw, almost electric, as he began speaking directly to viewers. Not as an actor selling a movie, but as a man defending every artist who's ever been mocked for daring to be different. "Don't let people like this stop you," he said, his voice steady, his eyes burning with intensity. "Be weird. Be misunderstood. Be fearless. That's where real art comes from." It wasn't just a speech. It was a moment of pure defiance, the kind that cuts through the noise of television and lives on long after cameras stop rolling. Joy tried to interrupt, her voice cracking under the weight of her own frustration, but Nicolas didn't even look her way. His disappointment said more than any argument ever could. "You could have been part of something meaningful today," he told her, his tone soft but devastating. "Instead, you chose to be part of something ugly." And with that, he walked off the set, not storming out in anger, but leaving with the quiet confidence of someone who'd said everything that needed to be said. The camera followed him until the studio doors closed behind him, the sound of them clicking shut signaling the end of an era for Joy, for her show, and maybe even for the way talk shows handle their guests. The aftermath was pure chaos. Producers scrambling, co-hosts speechless, the live audience caught between shock and admiration. Social media lit up within minutes, clips of the confrontation spreading like wildfire across every platform. Hashtags trended worldwide. #CadeVSJoy, #MediaMeltdown, #RealTalk. But beyond the viral noise, there was something deeper, something powerful about watching a man stand his ground against a machine built to tear him down. As Joy sat at the table, her face pale and stunned, she finally seemed to realize that for once, her sharp tongue had met its match. Nicolas Cage hadn't just won the argument. He'd reclaimed his narrative, proving that authenticity, passion, and truth will always outshine cheap sensationalism. What do you think of this explosive moment? Was Nicolas Cage right to walk away? Or did Joy Behar simply push too hard in the name of real journalism? Let me know in the comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more intense Hollywood showdowns like this one.